On 7th October 2024, near the Arunachal Pradesh border, the Indian Air Force suddenly spotted a balloon in mid-air that had intruded into Indian territory from around 50,000 feet. Within seconds, the IAF destroyed it with a missile. Investigations later revealed that it was a Chinese-made spy balloon being used to monitor Indian military movements. Just a day before this incident, on 6th October, Chinese hackers had infiltrated India's power grid systems through CCTV cameras. Interestingly, these cameras were not purchased from China, but from South Korea. If you look back, whether it was the sudden 1962 war, the 1967 Nathula conflict, the 2020 Galwan Valley clash, or even Operation Sindhur, history shows that whenever India extended a hand of friendship towards China, the response was either war or espionage. Yet today, in 2025, India is once again sending messages of friendship to China. But the question is, should China really be trusted? Because if you notice carefully, today it is not Pakistan but China that has become India's biggest enemy. Recently, during the SCO meeting, Chinese President Xi Jinping shook hands with PM Narendra Modi with a smile. But is there a deeper mystery behind this smile? Is Modi about to repeat Nehru's mistake? Let me tell you, behind this sudden improvement in India-China relations lies a much deeper Chinese conspiracy. Ever since the Communist Party came to power, one of China's core objectives has been to capture Taiwan. This sudden friendship with India is actually a part of their bigger plan to fulfill that dream. So how is this connected? I'm Mithun, and you're watching Romanch Pedia. Today we'll discuss how a mistake by Donald Trump has disrupted 20 years of carefully planned global geopolitics. At the time of uploading this video, no other video on YouTube has yet covered the Taiwan angle in India-China relations. So stay tuned till the end because I'll be updating you with details no one else has shared yet. On 15th June 2020, a group of Indian soldiers were patrolling Galwan Valley in Ladakh. Suddenly, they noticed Chinese troops had crossed the border into Indian territory and even started construction there. When Indian soldiers protested, violent clashes broke out. No firearms were used, only stones, rods wrapped with barbed wire, and hand-to-hand combat. That night, 20 Indian soldiers were martyred while nearly 40 Chinese soldiers also died, though China officially admitted to only 4 deaths. As a result, bilateral relations hit rock bottom. Direct flights were cancelled, trade halted, and China stopped supplying India with rare earth materials, pharmaceutical ingredients, and fertilizers. In response, India banned over 50 Chinese apps and blocked Chinese investments. A nationwide call to boycott Chinese products grew louder. But fast forward to 2025, with the US imposing a 50% tariff on Indian goods, China has cleverly positioned itself as India's friend. Experts believe that if India isn't cautious, this new friendship could actually harm India. Right now, India stands at a crossroads, the US on one side and China on the other. So let's analyze, what benefits does China get from befriending India? Because if your enemy suddenly smiles at you, you must ask what's behind that smile. To the southeast of China, about 130 kilometers offshore, lies Taiwan. After the Chinese Civil War in the late 1940s, the Communist Party took control of mainland China, while the Nationalist Party fled to Taiwan, claiming to be the real China. Ever since, Beijing has considered Taiwan a threat and dreams of unifying it with the mainland. Analysts predict that between 2027 and 2029, China may launch a full-scale military invasion of Taiwan. Naturally, The West, mainly the US, UK, Japan, Australia, South Korea, and the Philippines, would not allow this. The US has already deployed aircraft carriers, submarines, and warships in the South China Sea, which Beijing sees as a direct threat. After the 2020 Galwan clash, India too joined the anti-China camp, even becoming part of the Quad alliance with the US, Japan, and Australia. This worried Beijing deeply. Because if India remained hostile, China would have to keep huge military resources deployed along its long Himalayan border, dividing its strength at a time when it needs to focus on Taiwan. But now, with Trump's tariffs hurting India, China sees an opportunity. By repairing ties with India, Beijing hopes that when the Taiwan invasion begins, India stays neutral, relieving China from the burden of guarding its Indian border. Another critical factor, the Malacca Strait near India's Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Nearly 25 to 30% of global trade, including China's vital oil and gas supplies, passes through this narrow passage. If India sided against China during the Taiwan War, it could choke off this route, crippling Beijing. But if relations normalize, China won't have to worry about India blocking Malacca. So Trump's tariffs may have upended decades of global strategy, handing China a huge advantage. China's second big gain, India's massive market. As the West slowly shuts its markets to Chinese goods, China desperately needs alternatives. India, with its 1.4 billion people, is a dream market. In 2024, China exported about $535 billion worth of goods to the US, 14.7% of its total exports. If US-China trade breaks down completely, India becomes China's best option. Already in financial year 2024 to 25, India-China trade hit $113 billion. But here's the catch. China exported $100 billion to India, while India exported just $13 billion to China. So imagine what happens if relations fully normalize. Chinese products could flood the Indian market, devastating India's own manufacturing sector. The third Chinese advantage? Investment and influence. Recently, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi visited India and hinted at resolving border disputes and resuming Chinese investments in India. At first glance, this seems beneficial for India's economy, but history shows wherever China invests heavily, it not only dominates the market but also spreads its propaganda. For example, in Hollywood, directors now avoid making anti-China films because the Chinese box office is too lucrative. In 2012, film Red Dawn was initially shown as China as the invader but later replaced by North Korea just so the movie could be released in China. Similarly, if Chinese investments pour into Indian media houses, advertising and NGOs, China could manipulate public opinion. Tomorrow, when India tries to build infrastructure near the border, Chinese-funded NGOs may oppose it under the guise of environmental concerns. This strategy has already been seen in the US rare earth industry, where Chinese influence crippled America's production. So, while Chinese investments may look profitable short-term, in the long run, they could weaken India strategically. Now, what does India gain from this friendship? China has promised to restart rare earth supplies, crucial for India's automotive, EV, defense, and tech sectors. They've also offered cheap fertilizers, helping Indian farmers reduce costs. Chinese investments could also provide jobs and boost infrastructure. Plus, better ties with Beijing would give India leverage against Western pressure, sending the message, if you push us, we have other options. And if China truly wants peace, India would never have to fight a two-front war against China and Pakistan simultaneously. But despite these benefits, China will never be a safe option. History is proof. In the 1950s, India supported China's global recognition. Nehru even coined Hindi Chini Bhai Bhai. Yet in 1962, China attacked. In 1967, clashes erupted again at Nathula. After India's first nuclear test in 1974, China gifted nuclear designs to Pakistan, creating a permanent threat for India. Even in recent decades, 2013, 2014, 2017, 2020, China repeatedly provoked India at the border. Now Beijing is building a massive dam on the Brahmaputra River which could flood India's northeast anytime. During Operation Sindoor, China continuously supplied weapons and intelligence to Pakistan. Clearly, China's intentions are expansionist. First Tibet, then the South China Sea, next Taiwan, and eventually parts of India and Bhutan. So what should India do? Prime Minister Modi's recent visit to Japan right before his China trip seems like a signal that India will engage with China but cautiously, balancing power with other allies. In the long run, however, the US remains more important for India than China. The US is still India's largest trading partner, and unlike with China, India actually profits from US trade. Yes, Trump's policies have strained ties, but Trump won't be in power forever. A new US president could restore trade relations within a few years. So, India should engage with China but restrict its access to Indian markets, keep a close watch on Chinese investments, simultaneously continue talks with the US to secure a trade deal. Above all, prioritize India's own national interest first. What do you think? Should India trust China or treat it only as a tactical partner? Share your views in the comments. Also, I already have a detailed video on why India lost the 1962 war against China. You can check that out. See you in the next video. Until then, stay safe and take care.